Hey everyone, it's Andrew Meet Rich, and what I'm about to share with you is something the mainstream won't touch with a 10-foot pole. Europe is unraveling at the seams, Germany is admitting what we've known for years, and meanwhile, in America, the government can't even agree on a budget while air traffic controllers work for free. This isn't just news anymore, this is a warning sign flashing red, and we need to talk about it right now. I spent years inside one of the biggest media organizations you've ever heard of. I watched editors kill stories that didn't fit the approved narrative. I saw facts get buried, and I walked away from all of it. Now I answer to no one. I speak the truth as I see it, and I bring you what actually matters, not what they want you to hear. And listen, if what you're hearing resonates with you, if you're tired of the filtered, sanitized version of events, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you really want to support independent journalism that doesn't bow to corporate interests, consider becoming a channel sponsor. It means the world to me, and it keeps this operation running without compromises. So let's dive into what's happening across the Atlantic, because the European Commission just announced they're preparing a comprehensive package of measures to crack down on illegal substance production and distribution across the entire European Union. Now, why is this suddenly urgent? Because the problem has exploded to the point where they can't pretend everything's fine anymore. The situation has spiraled, and the EU's Internal Affairs Division is now leading the charge on a new strategy to combat this illegal trade. They're finally admitting we have to act, and we have to act now. And speaking of the EU, here's an interesting tidbit. Montenegro might actually join the European Union by 2028. Antonio Costa, the president of the European Council, came out and said he sees a real chance for Montenegro to achieve its ambitious goal and become the 28th member state within the next 3 years. He's confident, he's vocal about it, but notice what he's not saying. He's not giving timelines for any other candidate countries. It's Montenegro or nothing, apparently, and that tells you something about the state of EU expansion right now. But let's shift to Germany, because this is where things get genuinely alarming. Matthias Müller, the former CEO of both Volkswagen and Porsche, just made a statement that should send chills down your spine. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, Germany is in a dangerous economic position. Deindustrialization is happening in real time. Massive job cuts are underway, especially among suppliers. This is a man who ran 2 of Germany's most iconic companies, and he's sounding the alarm. He went further. He said Germany's prosperity is declining because its economic power is eroding, and the divisions in society are only going to deepen. He pointed to failures in education, migration policy, social policy, pension policy, you name it. The entire country, in his words, is in a precarious position. This isn't some fringe commentator. This is industrial royalty telling you the German model is breaking down. Now the question is, can the German government actually do something about this, or are we watching a slow-motion collapse? Stay with me, because we're just getting started. Meanwhile, Germany's foreign minister, I believe that's Annalena Baerbock, I'm seeing the name Jochen Wadephul here, responded to growing criticism over his statements about Syria. He previously said it's too early for Syrians to return home, and now he's doubling down, claiming Syria looks worse than Germany did in 1945. Let that sink in. Worse than post-World War II Germany. His argument is, where are these people supposed to go back to? But here's the thing. According to United Nations data, over 1 million people have already returned to Syria, and from Germany specifically, only about 3,000. Compare that to Turkey, where 550,000 Syrians have gone back. So clearly some people feel safe enough to return, but the German government seems determined to keep its population convinced otherwise. Why? What's the real agenda here? I'm not saying I have all the answers, but the numbers don't match the narrative. And it gets more bizarre. Germany's Interior Ministry is now offering to pay Afghans who are waiting for German visas to voluntarily give up their applications and not come to Germany. This applies to about 600 people currently in Pakistan. The offer is straightforward. Drop your plans to move to Germany and we'll give you money to start over in Afghanistan or any other country you choose. Single women could receive up to 1,000 euros before leaving Pakistan, plus 5,000 euros in startup assistance. For families, the amounts go even higher. The ministry's explanation: the situation in Pakistan has become too difficult, Germany can't process the applications fast enough, and the Pakistani government is planning to expel Afghans anyway. But here's the kicker. A court actually ordered the German government to honor its refugee commitments, so the ministry had to find a workaround. Paying people not to come, that's the solution they landed on. Make of that what you will. Before we go further, if you're finding this valuable, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about Germany's approach here, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because this kind of analysis doesn't appear on mainstream channels. Now, let's talk about something almost comical if it weren't so serious. An Albanian man who's been dealing in illegal substances and is wanted by Italian authorities. He's already been sentenced to 5 years in prison, managed to enter the United Kingdom illegally, and he told British journalists that he cannot under any circumstances be extradited to Italy. Why? Because Italian prisons don't have hot water, which apparently violates human rights, and many cells are too small for prisoners to exercise properly. So according to him, sending him to Italy would be inhumane. And you know what? He might have a point legally, because prisons in Italy, just like in France, are severely overcrowded. This has become one of the most acute social problems in recent years. In Britain, they've been periodically releasing prisoners early just to free up space. So we've reached a point where convicted criminals can argue they shouldn't be extradited because the conditions aren't comfortable enough. That's where we are in Europe right now. And speaking of Britain, the government tried and failed to shut down a well-known right-wing activist on more serious charges. A court acquitted Tommy, and yes, we all know who I'm talking about, despite the government's efforts to prosecute him for his political views. The Labour government under Keir Starmer, which is hemorrhaging support in the polls, threw everything they had at this case, and it didn't work. Starmer knows he's losing ground, but he seems powerless to stop the slide. Over in Poland, there was a massive union march in the city of Katowice. Participants were demanding job preservation and support for the region's industries. The demonstrators wanted to draw attention to the deteriorating situation in manufacturing, instability across various sectors, from coal mines and steel plants to automotive production. People are worried, and they're making their voices heard. And then we have the Netherlands, where Geert Wilders, leader of the right-wing Party for Freedom, admitted defeat in parliamentary elections and congratulated the left Liberal Party Democrat 66 on their victory. According to Wilders, his party had the advantage just last week, but the situation changed rapidly after results came in from Amsterdam and, crucially, after votes sent from abroad were counted. There's the detail: overseas votes shifted the outcome. This pattern, as you might know, has appeared in other European countries as well, and it's worth paying attention to. Let's jump across the Atlantic now, because the United States has its own set of problems. Republicans and Democrats still haven't agreed on a federal budget, and the current government shutdown is likely to become the longest in American history, and it's causing real chaos. Flights are being delayed and cancelled at airports because the Federal Aviation Administration has been forced to slow down operations. The shutdown means nearly 13,000 air traffic controllers are working without pay, but not all of them are willing to do that. Many are calling in sick, which makes maintaining flight schedules increasingly difficult. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned that if the shutdown continues for another week, it could lead to massive chaos and force him to close parts of the national airspace to air traffic. Think about that. Portions of American airspace could be shut down because politicians can't agree on a budget. Just to remind you, the government shutdown started on October 1st. Senate Democrats are demanding an extension of tax credits for health insurance as a condition for their support, and they're showing no signs of backing down. Republicans argue this issue can be resolved later. They say the priority should be the American people and immediate needs. But it seems Democrats aren't particularly concerned about the problems facing everyday Americans right now. Who suffers? Not the politicians, that's for sure. And here's something that caught my attention. President Donald Trump warned New Yorkers against electing Democrat Zoran Mamdani as the city's mayor. Trump even threatened to cut funding to the city if residents choose Mamdani. According to Trump, Mamdani is a communist who will destroy New York. Mamdani, who's 34 years old, openly calls himself a democratic socialist. His campaign platform includes raising taxes on the wealthiest residents, which already sounds implausible, let's be honest, and expanding public housing construction. Of course, whether any of this would actually happen is another question entirely, especially considering Mamdani himself comes from a very wealthy family. But Trump's message is clear: elect this guy, and federal money dries up. That's hardball politics, and it's happening right now in one of America's biggest cities. Now, there's been a lot of discussion today about the passing of Dick Cheney, one of the architects of the Iraq War and former Vice President of the United States. He was 84 years old. As Vice President under George W. Bush, Cheney was, as you all know, a powerful advocate for the invasion of Iraq. He openly supported false claims that Baghdad possessed weapons of mass destruction, but as it turned out, that was just a pretext. The real motives were something else entirely, and that doesn't surprise anyone at this point. Interestingly, in the last election, Cheney voted for Kamala Harris and was quite critical of Donald Trump. Make of that what you will, but it tells you something about the political realignments happening in America. Cheney, a Republican icon for decades, ended up backing a Democrat. The lines are blurring, and the old categories don't mean what they used to. And here's something that sounds like science fiction but is actually happening. Lawmakers in Ohio want to ban marriages between humans and artificial intelligence. The proposed legislation would prohibit AI from entering into marriage, owning property, or performing any legal functions of a spouse. Authorities say they're doing this because the situation could spiral out of control. Artificial intelligence is developing rapidly, and according to one study, more than 20% of respondents admitted they've developed an emotional connection with a chatbot, and 3% called it their romantic partner. So we're at a point where legislators feel the need to clarify that you cannot legally marry your AI assistant. That's the world we're living in now, and honestly, I'm not sure whether to laugh or be deeply concerned. Probably both. Let me quickly recap what we've covered today, because there's a lot to process. Europe is tightening the screws on illegal substances. Montenegro might join the EU by 2028. Germany's industrial leaders are warning of economic collapse and social fractures. The German government is paying Afghans not to come. An Albanian criminal is avoiding extradition because Italian prisons lack hot water. Britain's Labour government failed to silence a right-wing activist. Poland's workers are marching for their jobs, and overseas votes flipped an election in the Netherlands. In the United States, the government shutdown is now threatening air travel. Trump is playing hardball with New York over its mayoral race. Dick Cheney has passed away, leaving a complicated legacy, and Ohio wants to make sure you can't marry your AI girlfriend. If all of this sounds surreal, that's because it is. But it's also very real, and it's happening right now. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me. This is the kind of deep dive the mainstream won't give you because it raises too many uncomfortable questions. If you found this valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and seriously consider becoming a sponsor. Independent voices like mine depend on support from people like you, people who want the truth, not the official story. Your support keeps this going, and I can't do it without you. Let me know in the comments what you think about any of these stories. I read every single one. Until next time, stay informed, stay skeptical, and don't let them tell you what to think.